Michael Jackson saw Ethan Miller before anyone else did. The metro platform was loud, crowded, ordinary, but something about the way Ethan stood near the edge felt wrong. He wasn't just waiting for a train, he was measuring distance. His shoes were too close to the yellow line. His shoulders were stiff. His eyes were not scanning the tunnel like everyone else's. They were fixed downward, at the rails, as if they were searching for quiet. In his hand was a crumpled envelope, folded so many times it looked smaller than it was, like he was trying to shrink the words inside it. The train lights flickered in the distance. Wind began to move through the tunnel. No one noticed the boy leaning a fraction too far forward. No one except Michael. Michael didn't rush. Panic makes noise. Noise makes mistakes. He stepped through the moving crowd calmly, slipping between shoulders and briefcases until he stood beside Ethan, close enough to feel the tension radiating from him, close enough to see that his jaw was clenched hard enough to hurt. "Sometimes," Michael said gently, not looking at Ethan but at the opposite wall, "we stand in the wrong place without realizing it." Ethan didn't respond. The train grew louder. The rails began to hum. Michael reached into his pocket and flipped a coin across the platform. The small metallic clink against concrete cut through the rhythm of the station. Ethan's eyes followed the sound for half a second. That was enough. Michael placed a steady hand on his shoulder and guided him one step back just as the train burst into the station. Air rushed violently past them. The moment broke. Ethan began to shake. Outside, the city felt colder than it should have. Ethan finally spoke. The envelope was a rejection letter, his third one, his last application. His parents had used savings they didn't have to pay the fees. His mother, Maria Miller, had stopped buying medication some weeks just to help cover the costs. His father, Thomas Miller, once a strong construction worker, now unemployed and aging faster than he should, had pretended everything would be fine. Ethan had promised them he would fix things, and now he had nothing. "I was supposed to change everything," he whispered. Michael listened. He did not interrupt. He did not offer cliches about destiny. He simply walked beside him. Ethan explained that he worked at a small neighborhood cafe owned by Mr. Donovan, but he was already on thin ice. He had missed shifts because of exam preparation. Business had been slow. Mistakes had cost money. "If I lose that job," Ethan said, "we can't pay rent." His voice carried more shame than fear. Michael stopped in front of the cafe door, but did not go inside. "If today goes badly," he said calmly, "meet me tomorrow morning, same station." Ethan almost asked why, but something about Michael's certainty stopped him. Inside, Mr. Donovan was frustrated. He was not cruel, just tired. Bills were stacking up. Employees needed to be reliable. When Ethan made one more small error, the decision came quickly. "I'm sorry, kid. I need someone steady." Ethan nodded. He had expected it. Outside, Michael was waiting, hands in the pockets of his worn jacket. Ethan tried to speak but couldn't. "Tomorrow," Michael reminded him softly. That night, while the city dimmed and apartment windows flickered off one by one, Michael sat alone at a small desk. He searched quietly. Scholarships with late deadlines, community grants, emergency academic funds. He made calls without introducing himself. He read guidelines carefully. He found one opportunity still open. It wasn't generous, but it was real. It required a recommendation from an employer who could speak to character and persistence. Michael leaned back for a moment. He knew what had to happen, but he also knew Ethan had to do it himself. The next morning at the station, Ethan looked exhausted. Michael handed him a folder. Inside were printed pages, highlighted sections, deadlines circled carefully. "This isn't charity," Michael said. "It's a door that didn't close." Ethan stared at the papers as if they might disappear. "But I need a reference," he said quietly. Michael nodded.
Then let's earn one." They returned to the cafe. Mr. Donovan looked surprised to see Ethan again. This time, Ethan didn't apologize immediately. He spoke honestly about Maria Miller's health, about Thomas Miller searching for work every day, about feeling like a failure. His voice trembled at first, but steadied as he continued. Mr. Donovan listened differently now. He saw effort instead of mistakes. He saw a young man carrying more than most adults. After a long pause, he sighed and pulled out a sheet of letterhead. "I should have noticed. You never stopped trying." He began to write. At home, Maria Miller held Ethan's hand as he filled out the application. Thomas Miller stood behind him, thick beard flecked with gray, eyes heavy but proud. The apartment was small, worn but alive with cautious hope. Days passed slowly. Every notification sound made Ethan's heart race. Then one evening, the email arrived. Acceptance, partial scholarship, enough to start, enough to breathe. Maria cried openly. Thomas placed both hands on Ethan's shoulders and said nothing, because sometimes pride is too full for words. Ethan ran to the station that night. Michael was there, leaning against a pillar as if he had nowhere else to be. "Why?" Ethan asked. "Why did you help me?" Michael looked towards the tracks, not down at them, but across them. "Because someone once helped me stand back from an edge," he said quietly. Ethan studied his face, recognition dawning slowly. The voice, the presence, the unmistakable calm. Michael shook his head gently. "It doesn't matter who I am. It matters who you become." Months later, Ethan walked across a university campus for the first time. It was not easy. He worked evenings. He studied late. He still worried about rent, but he moved forward. One afternoon, returning home, he saw a younger student at the metro platform standing too close to the edge. The same posture, the same silence. Ethan felt his chest tighten, but he did not freeze. He stepped forward calmly. "Sometimes," Ethan said softly, "we stand in the wrong place without realizing it." The train lights approached. The student blinked, startled. Ethan placed a steady hand on his shoulder, one step back. The train rushed in. The moment passed. Across the platform, barely noticeable in the crowd, Michael watched for a brief second before turning away. He did not wave. He did not wait for gratitude. He simply blended back into the moving city. Because some people are not meant to stay in the spotlight forever. Some are meant to light a path just long enough for someone else to walk it alone.